What's up, everyone, and welcome down to another episode of Zetro's Toxic Vault. And today I have yet another special guest with me, and from the golden era of cinema, Ricky D.
Thank you, Zetro. Thank you.
I've known this guy for quite some time, and he does a really, really cool thing for all you collectors, movie collectors like myself, because I remember for a time when I met you, I was collecting the Mel Brooks stuff.
You were,
know, I think I still got to go through my thing. I still need a couple more.
Okay.
And Rick's going to tell us what he does, and he actually, it's really cool. He's going to show us examples of what he has, but he kind of takes us old films, right?
Yeah.
And you make like these cool little decorations. Talk about that.
Yeah, Zetro, thanks for having me on. I look all over U.S. and Canada, all over North America, in the basements of old theaters. I'm looking for movie reels. And with the movie reels, I'd look for key sequences of vintage movies, cut the film, put them in custom cut mats with a mini poster, and then sell them as collectibles to the public.
I love them. I think you do them really. Do you have any of those with us?
I do. I have a couple. I was going to show you the reels first, just to tell you, not to get too much into the weeds on it, but 99.5% of the film was returned to the studios, Zetro. The studios own the reels, not the theaters. And they would come back to the studios, and those reels would be shredded as they came back in.
Really?
Yeah.
So they weren't archived or anything?
No,
like that.
It's very interesting. That's a great point. There were two main factors from what retired executives have told me. The first factor was they didn't want to warehouse tens of thousands of reels annually because it's typically 6 reels per movie. It's 20 minutes per reel.
Okay, right.
So let's say you have Top Gun was in 1,000 theaters. That's 6,000 reels coming back for one movie. You can imagine if they release 100 films a year.
So I'm sure they archive some of
They
it.
do.
Right?
Some they do. But the vast majority they shredded. And the reason why they did shred a lot of them, the secondary reason, in the 80s and 90s, the VHS and DVD revenue was so huge for the studios. If one set of reels of Star Wars, Star Trek, Top Gun ended up overseas, they could lose hundreds of millions of dollars in bootleg revenue.
Really? I guess so.
They were terrified of that. So what I'm finding in the basements of theaters is mostly just the cuts and trims off the reels from when the film broke. So I'm finding 30 seconds of Blazing Saddles, 20 seconds of Star Trek. I'm just finding small pieces, but at 22 frames roughly per second, 2 or 3 minutes even is quite a bit of fun.
Right, sure.
I cross my fingers every time that if it's Clint Eastwood that he's got a gun or he's on a horse, because nobody wants a shot of a fire hydrant or a tree.
No,
they want the money shots.
Sure.
You can say all day long, that's Dirty Harry, I swear, and they go, where is it? That's a fire hydrant.
Right. Exactly.
So
that makes a lot of sense.
So I zero in on those key sequences that are memorable. Some movies have a ton of key sequences. Some have, frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn. They have that one big money shot,
right?
Gone with the Wind. So, and it's different strokes for different folks. Some people like comedy, some like horror, some like chick flicks, action movies. So it's really a lot of fun finding the film.
Where does the bulk of your reels come from? Do you have resources that are saying, "Hey, dude, I know this old theater
now I do
that's there," and
yeah.
And do you take trips like to Hollywood, to places that are archived there? I'm sure somebody.
Awesome, yeah. It's interesting. I've had my greatest success in what they call the flyover country. I'm targeting those mom and pop theaters out in the boonies. Some of them you pull up to the theater. It's a town that's like almost a ghost town now, and on the marquee it says "Coming soon, Jaws." It's been closed for 40 years. The urban and suburban areas have been picked through pretty quick. With American Pickers on TV and these other shows, people are pretty hip now. They're going into the back rooms, they're going into the basements, they're looking for the posters. If something says Godfather on it, they're going to grab it and run. So I'm going into those small towns out in the boonies where the theaters have been closed or they're just barely hanging on. And they tend to be pack rats. They saved a lot of this stuff.
They did.
Yeah. The corporate theaters, if the film broke and they respliced it, they took that sequence and tossed it a lot of times. Some of these tiny places, they hold on to everything. And that's what I'm looking for.
Do the movies come to the theaters like this now?
Now it's digital. Great question. It's digital now. No more film. January 1, 2014, it went 100% digital. And frankly, every theater from 2010 on, well, actually every movie theater almost from the 2000s on is built digital. That's the other sad thing to segue off just a bit. A lot of the fourplexes and sixplexes that we grew up with, the Cinedomes, it was roughly $85,000 a screen to convert to digital. You're looking at $500,000 to convert one of those theaters. That's a tough business decision when you've got a 20-plex that might move in across town and just crush you.
Sure, that's what happened here.
That's what happened
here,
here,
unfortunately.
Yeah,
in Dublin, and what was it, probably 20 or about 20 years ago.
Yeah.
They built the Regal over there, and that killed Dublin's 2 Cinema 6s that they had.
And they were
Killed
killer
them.
theaters, too.
I loved them both.
Yeah.
That's where I grew up. It was my cinema. That's where I'd ride my bike there from my mom's house in the 70s to go see movies. Lock it up to the little PG&E thing there and walk in to the movies. I miss that. I do.
Me too. And I miss the big screens. Some of those 4 and 6 plexes would have, or the domes would have the large screens. These megaplexes have a lot of tiny screens, and they're really feeding people into the snack bar is what they're.
That's where they make their money.
That's where they make their money.
Well, I saw. I went and seen Jojo Rabbit the other day.
Sweet.
And they didn't put it in one of the bigger theaters, although it didn't bother me because I wanted to see the movie for the art of the thing. You know what I mean? And if I go see, obviously, Midway.
Yes.
I'm going to see, and I saw Midway in the big theater.
I want to see that.
It's amazing.
I've heard
it's
great
really
reviews.
great.
Yeah.
But I mean, I tell everybody all the time, I tell them on the show, I said, I love the smell. I love the look. I love walking in. I love the movie posters. I love everything about the experience of it for some reason to me. I'm a horror guy, so I stay in the vein of horror.
Yeah.
Even though I collected Mel Brooks stuff from you because well, people ask me all the time, if you could meet somebody famous who would be like, I've met everybody I want. There's nobody, but if I could have lunch with somebody, I'd love to have lunch with Mel Brooks.
He's still going strong.
Yeah, I know. Isn't that great?
He wants to make Spaceballs too.
That's what I heard, and I would love that.
He's got to get Rick Moranis on board. If he does, let's go.
That would be so great. But it's just like I love horror movies.
Yeah.
I love to go see them. I'll see anything else, but I do I do most of my reviews on this show on horror movies. Because most of them. My viewers are metalheads that love horror and stuff. So talk about the process and what you do. It's like you have a reel here.
Yeah.
Are you going to go through that whole thing and find the money shots in there?
Yeah, absolutely great. When I get a reel, generally, if I'm lucky enough to find a reel of this size, what I do is I have an editing machine. I put it up on this reel with an empty reel.
Is this just one movie, Rick?
This is about probably 63 different, I'm guessing 60 to 63 different cuts of movies on here.
Oh, it is.
So what my first task is to separate each movie, because you can see sort of when one movie transitions from one to the next. I separate them and core them. Then I identify the movies, because there's a handful of movies I've never figured out who they are. They were B movies that went to drive-ins in Alabama in 1973, and you don't recognize anybody in the movie. So I have a handful that I have pushed off to the side, but I identify the film, and then I go one by one and cut the money shots out. And even if you don't like a movie, you kind of put yourself in the place of somebody that does, and you say, what scenes would I want out of this? Cut those and put them aside.
Obviously, it's with the two stars interacting in there.
Huge.
I mean, when you have probably Michael talking to Marlon Brando, in there, people want that stuff. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. There are certain scenes that are in every movie that you can remember. Some movies have tons of scenes. Forrest Gump has got like 30 scenes that people will ask you about. Because it's just one long adventure. There are other movies where there's 1 or 2 or 3 scenes that are just the memorable shots. And in Halloween or Friday the 13th or the horror movies, almost every time that Jason or Michael Myers
is on
spun
the screen,
around.
That's great. Exactly.
It's go time, yeah. So, and there's some movies where you just don't find anything, and that's kind of disappointing. But it's fun going through it. You never know what you're going to find. They do tend to be grouped by the era that they're in. You find stuff clustered from the 60s or 70s or 80s, and then you just go through and cut them, and then put them out, and it's a lot of fun.
Show us some of your cards. I know you brought some of those.
Yeah, I brought some of the stuff here just to give you an idea. These are some movies that I've cut, and I brought them in, and got one on top. I think that's might be a favorite of yours. This is Dark Shadows.
Yeah,
the film Dark Shadows.
Yeah, that's the House of Dark Shadows.
House of Dark Shadows. And here are the mini posters that we put on the cell.
See, this is what I love about that. You know what I mean? He puts this to me is what's the cool part is the actual this is the movie card, and that looks it kind of looks like it's a movie poster.
Mini poster, yeah. And here's a complete one, Zetro, of American Pie, which is one of the comedies that really exploded.
You can see here's where he puts the movie poster. Can you get that in, Wayne? We got that. And then right there's the cell.
Yeah.
Right there. So where the film is right there. I just love these to death.
And on the left side, Zetro, of every piece on the cell is this audio track right here on the left-hand side that runs top to bottom is the audio track in each piece of film. And that's how you can tell movie film from maybe publicity stills. So that's kind of neat to see the actual audio track there. The other great thing about the film cells is that, you know, we can fight it out over sports, but people can hug it out over the movies. Or you can even brawl a little bit over the movies. But, you know, you can have people from different places on Earth that come together that love Halloween, Friday the 13th, Blazing Saddles.
Sure.
You know, it's a common ground, and it's stuck in your psyche if you saw it at a certain time in your life. And it's just there. You said the sights and sounds of the theater, everything can kind of come back.
I think that's music has the same thing to do
Big
that.
time.
You know how many times I hear at an Exodus show like, oh man, you played Fabulous Disaster tonight. Dude, I was graduating high school that year. I remember me and my partners went and saw you guys. So it's like it brings you back. You know what I mean? That's kind of music. I look at the crowd and, you know, I mean, we are older thrashers these days. And there is so much young crowd coming in, but as well as older, you know, the same older guys that have been there for years. And I know that man, dude, I remember sneaking out of my mom's house. I got in trouble because then I hear these things, and it's the same thing with movies.
Yes.
Movies are like, I mean, how many times are you reciting movies to your friends?
Absolutely
stupid lines. I know all of my close friends.
Yeah.
I mean, I could pick up the phone and go and say something out of a movie, and they get it. You know what I mean? Because it's just the way it is.
One of the things that people say to me at the shows, and I overuse the line. I beat it like a dead horse, but they'll say, "How do you get the film?" And I'll say, "It's classified. I could tell you, but then," and then they'll usually say, "You have to kill me." Right? You know, it's right out of Top Gun. One of the classic lines, and usually they'll laugh. And there are lines throughout every movie, mega movie that you just remember that bring it back. And also, you brought up another great point about music. When you can combine the music with a movie, in the 80s, the soundtracks were just through the roof.
They were.
And you think about Footloose and all these movies. And
they were.
Right?
They were
and they became part of your psyche.
Sure.
And then MTV coming in.
The movie Heavy Metal. You know that. I mean, here's our movie, and they've put music to it.
Yeah.
And they've made this really cartoon kind of with big boobies, and you could even back then, before girls did Brazilian waxes, you even saw that part in cartoon, mind you.
Right.
You know, and it was like 6 cool things, and Sabbath had a song in it, and everybody was like Blue Oyster Cult, and Sabbath and Nazareth are in that. You
all
know,
the heavy hitters,
Journey.
at the time.
You know what I mean? So it was so cool, and so I know, and that's what brings me back. I listened. I swear to you, how come I know this?
Yeah.
I listened to the soundtrack last week at the gym.
Oh, did you?
I listened to the heavy metal soundtrack.
Very cool.
With open up. I think it's Don Felder that did that.
Don Felder, I think.
Take a ride for heavy metal. I love that. One of my favorite movies in the world. And I love everything about it.
And Sammy Hagar still plays that song from time to time at the shows.
In leather. Yeah. See, now you got me going. I listened to that whole thing. What is your what do you think is your best selling stuff? You knew I was going to ask that.
I know. And
what is that? What are people coming and going? Yeah, this is your guy.
Yeah,
is it Star Wars?
You know, I would say, and it's almost by generation, although a lot of movies, as you sort of touched upon, are multi-generational when we talk about your audiences, people coming in from all generations.
Sure.
But Star Wars, there's some movies that are just multi-generational. Star Wars, Star Trek, Wizard of Oz. We get people that are 15 to 85 that ask for Wizard of Oz.
How hard is it to obtain Wizard of Oz?
Tough. The best chance I have of obtaining Wizard of Oz is from finding film from one of the re-releases when it played in 15 theaters or 50 theaters on the 50th anniversary re-release or the 60th.
Really?
Because finding something from 1939, the film in all likelihood is going to be completely washed out.
Sure.
So if I can find a cut of a print off the 50s or 60s or 70s re-release, or even better yet, 80s, then it's in the LPP or sometimes the IB Technicolor film, which is really just pristine. But going back to the 30s, 40s, it's tough. But I do find stuff. I found Casablanca. I found Metropolis.
Really?
Charlie Chaplin's first talkie film, Modern Times.
Uh-huh.
So when I find stuff like that, I feel like Rocky running up the stairs, you know? It's kind of a almost like archive.
Now, is it like you'll get a call and like, Rick, yo, this is Deep Throat. We got to make it over to Arkansas because this dude's got a whole thing. It's like, get on a plane, come here, and then you're.
It's
you know,
awesome.
I said, some old man's like, yep.
Yeah.
I mean, it used to be a theater. But under here, I was going to throw it all away, but they said you might, and then you go down there and you hit a fucking treasure trove.
No doubt. I've got a couple of those. One, I did about 9 road trips in a year and a half where I didn't find anything, and I was ready to give up. And
really?
And if I was married, I would have been divorced 9 times over those 9 trips because you fly to Chicago, rent a car, drive 6 hours in the middle of nowhere, fly to Kansas City, rent a car, drive 6 hours in the middle of nowhere, and then nothing. Either you were lied to or
God.
It's a bummer.
Oh,
it's brutal. But I went up to Vancouver, British Columbia. My cousin was up there on a date night with his wife from Seattle. And there was a theater that closed, and I went up to Vancouver, and I went into the basement, and as I clicked the lights on, I saw all these reels kind of scattered. And I got all the film from the guy that had control of the theater. As I was driving back and gassing up in Oregon, he called me to thank me. He said, "Where are you at?" And I said, "I'm in Oregon." He goes, "Have you ever heard of a place called Redding, California?" And I go, "Yeah, it's right off of 5 on the way back." He goes, "Well, I know a guy that owns some theaters up in kind of the rural areas." So I hit a bunch of places on the way back and ended up with a ton of film, just sort of on a fluke.
Really?
Whereas other times I've been a private investigator, scoped it out, talked to Bubba in Arkansas.
Right.
You go out there and then the basement's got 4 foot of water in it.
Right. Well, there's once there's nice.
Exactly.
Haven't been in here in 5 years.
Exactly.
Damn.
You meet some interesting people along the way. And
I don't care if I got this is my take for you hunters. If you go out for 2 weeks deer hunting and on the 13th day haven't shot anything, on the 14th day, anything that fucking moves is going to get shot, as far as I'm concerned.
Coming home with something.
Something you spend money on these tags, you go out there and then you spend in the cold and shitting in a bucket, and then you come home with nothing. I can guarantee you anything that moves on day 14 is getting fucking killed.
It's coming home.
I'm frustrated with stuff like that. It's killer. Because, I mean, getting on an airplane, go over there and you come there and Bubba's got nothing for you.
I went out to Nebraska. There was a for sale sign on the whole building. It was the theater and then a couple buildings attached to it. And I think it was $80,000. It was way out in the boonies, and the guy had some film reels in the basement, and I said, "What do you want for everything?" He goes, $120,000. I said, "Dude, I can buy you in the building for $80. What's up with that?" He goes, "I watched American Pickers. I know what this is worth." So, I just split. I went back, got on the plane, came home, and then he ended up calling me up and said, "What do you give me for the film?" And then I lowballed him.
Oh, I would have fucked you.
Yeah, a bit really
I've
low.
Fucking been there.
Really lowballed me. He hung up on me, and then I said, I gave him an offer. And I said, "Then that includes you got to pay for the shipping." And he hung up on me. Then he called me back an hour later and he goes, "What's your address?" So I got this stuff. If he would have been decent, I would have given him a good amount, but he got greedy. So
So you didn't have to bring it back with you.
Exactly.
What did you get out of that?
I got a lot of 70s Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Oh, amazing! One of my favorites.
Bullet.
God, if you could pull a scene with the car going like
absolutely,
that, you know
hopping all over San Francisco.
For Christ's sakes, you're in like Flynn.
Some great stuff. Planet of the Apes. It was mostly mid '60s to early '70s stuff. It was and that's a great era with baby boomers and Gen Xers too. But with cable TV, with people watching Turner Classic Movies, we're getting a lot of
a whole new audience.
Whole new audience, man,
course.
coming in there asking for Audrey Hepburn and Planet of the Apes and everything. So it's really cool.
That's great. Same thing with music right now.
Yeah.
It's great because, we get the younger kids in. I mean, come on, our first record came out 34 years ago. It's a long time ago. So it's great to have, the whole new generations coming in.
And your music was a soundtrack of many people's lives growing up, like you were saying earlier.
I think, in our age group, definitely, it was the angst. It was definitely the music that held the rebellion and the angst of it, definitely.
It was raw and it was real.
Raw and
real. You've always kept it real. And so, people, I think, are drawn to authenticity. So
I think that's what's good for us. Tell us where you can get a hold of the Golden Era of Cinema. Where
Thank you
if
for
you
that.
can go online.
Yeah.
If you have a website, if you have stuff, and then talk about the shows you're doing.
You bet. I've got some upcoming shows if you want to get Christmas presents. By the way, this makes great Christmas, Hanukkah gifts, or just birthday gifts, or just if you're in the doghouse with your lady. Put her
find her favorite movie.
Absolutely, it'll buy you 8 hours.
I'm telling you,
8 hours of bliss.
I'm telling you, I go to his stand and I leaf through these things like I'm at a fucking record store. And I'm like, oh, look at this one. Oh, look at they got this, and I'm holding them up to the lights, look at the scenes.
Yeah.
And if you really got tricky, you could put a little light behind there. You
bet.
know what I mean? Click a little light on.
You could put LED lights around the perimeter on the back for $4 on Amazon.
Well, I told you I was going to do that when I got all my finished, got all my my Mel Brookses, and I got to go through that because Vicky and I moved since then.
I got to hook you up on the rest of his movies that you want.
I got to figure out which ones they were anyway, but I'll do that.
We'll figure that out.
Let us know where we can tell us.
This next weekend, Sacramento Harvest Festival at Cal Expo Pavilion. It's a huge indoor show with about 400 vendors. First weekend of December, Black Friday weekend, San Jose Convention Center, the San Jose Harvest Festival at the San Jose Convention Center. First weekend of December, Pomona Harvest Festival, and then we come back to the Bay Area, December 14th and 15th, Zetro. We're at the San Jose Convention Center South Hall for the San Jose Made Holiday Art and Craft Show. That's free to the public, that show, by the way. Free admission both days, Saturday and Sunday, and then I think it's free parking on Sunday, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, because they're expensive to park there. What's up with them over there?
Yeah, that's
I did a Comic-Con there, and I go in there, I'm like, yeah, I'm appearing. They're like, great. $20. I'm like, no, you don't understand. I'm appearing. They're like, we're a private entity.
Yeah.
$20, bro. I'm
sometimes the parking can be more than the admission.
I know. Wow.
We got to get in on that. And then the last 4 days before Christmas, I'm going to be on the mean streets of Berkeley, California, the Berkeley Telegraph Avenue Holiday Street Fair, December 21st to the 24th. That's free to the public, too. If you want to come out to Berkeley, come out to Telegraph Avenue. They have several hundred vendors. If you want to email me with any questions, it's goldeneraofcinema@yahoo.com. And then the website is goldeneraofcinema.com. But feel free to email me, goldeneraofcinema@yahoo.com. I'm Ricky D. If you have any specific requests, even for specific scenes, if we have the scene, I'll cut it for you and hold it for you at the show.
He will. I know, because remember you called me one time and said, I think it was History of the World.
History of the World.
You called me and said, I just got History of the World.
Right.
I'm going to do one up for you. You know, what scene did you want? And I told him, well, if you could find this scene, that would be great. Yeah. And he did, and he put it on there, and it was cool. So you guys, viewers, obviously leave me in the comments if you've seen him and met him out there, and then go and check him out. Go if you're into the flicks like I know, because a lot of you people are into movies like I am. I'm always reviewing these things. Go check out Ricky D, Golden Era of Cinema, man.
Thank you, brother.
Good having you
Appreciate
here, brother.
It, brother.
Thanks for being in the vault.
It's been an honor. Thank you.
Subscribe to my channel. Share this with other people. And even you guys that are overseas and stuff like that, he'll ship you stuff. It's really cool. Very unique.
Worldwide.
Right on, brother.
Thank you again.
Good having you in here. We'll see you guys in the vault real soon.